do not make the mistake of fading Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year because he burnt you last year or you think he had a bad year. He has easy top 10 upside this year, and I'm going to tell you why right now. What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining me for another video. Today, we are breaking down Clyde Edwards-Helaire and his fantasy outlook for 2021. Let's just start off right off the bat with his year last year. For whatever reason, the narrative going around is that he was a bust and he had this awful year, and that just isn't the truth. Did he live up to the absurd expectations that a lot of people were putting on him last year? No, but it wasn't as bad as everyone is making it out to be either. We also have to remember that for these rookies, last year was not a normal year because of all the COVID restrictions and protocols and everything like that. And then on top of that, the Kansas City offensive line started to crumble before the season even began because they had two of their offensive linemen opt out, and they obviously had injuries across their entire offensive line throughout the season as well. And then Clyde Edwards himself suffered an injury. He only played in 13 games, but across those 13 games, he finished as RB 18 in half PPR scoring. He had just over 800 yards with 803. That was 17th most among running backs. And he also had the 17th most carries with 181. In terms of his passing game involvement, he very quietly had 54 targets, which was tied for 14th most last year. And his 297 receiving yards was 19th at the position. Now, just to go back to his rushing real quick, he saw 6 or fewer defenders in the box on nearly 57% of his carries, which ranked 9th highest last year. That's not going to change, obviously, with Patty Mahomes and how explosive their passing offense is. Now, adding the fact that the Chiefs' offensive line is completely revamped, built back up, and is looking like one of the top units in the entire NFL. Sign me up. Speaking of that offensive line, let's take a look at what the Chiefs have done to rebuild that offensive line after watching Mahomes run for his life during the Super Bowl. Right at the beginning of free agency, the Chiefs added 2 guards with Kyle Long and Joe Thuney. They brought in center Austin Blythe, and then they made a huge splash during the draft when they traded their first and some other picks for left tackle Orlando Brown. And then in the draft, in the second round, they went and got Creed Humphrey. So they went out and completely overhauled this offensive line, like I said, especially after watching what the Tampa Bay defense did to that offensive line last year in the Super Bowl. And now, more importantly as well, they also have depth. So they're going to have some options behind their starters in case any injuries were to happen, which is going to be super important because we have no idea what kind of injuries we're going to be facing with the added game, or guys are going to be sitting or anything like that. We just have no idea. So let's go back to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Just covered the offensive line, one of the best in the league on paper. And to top that off, you have one of the best, if not the best, offense in the entire NFL. And this is the guy that you want to fade. You really want to fade this running back who's going into his second year, who was just drafted in the first round last year with how well everything is set up around him. This is the guy you want to fade. The other thing that gets me super excited for Clyde is the fact that the Chiefs didn't bring in any passing game help outside of Cornell Powell late day 3. We know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, one of his strengths coming out of LSU was his ability in the passing game. And then you also have Andy Reid last year comping him to a running back that he had in Philly with Brian Westbrook. And Westbrook had a stretch of 5 years where he had at least 74 targets and 54 catches 5 years in a row. And then we look at the Chiefs offense. You have Tyreek, you have Kelsey, and then who is the solidified third guy in that offense? They don't have one. We're still waiting on this Mecole Hardman breakout. Byron Pringle's been talked up. Cornell Powell, I really don't think we would care that much about if he wasn't on the Chiefs right now. I think it's well within the range of outcomes that Clyde Edwards-Helaire ends up being the third most targeted player on this offense, ahead of whoever wide receiver 2 is for the Chiefs. And for fantasy purposes, outside of guys like Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, in order to have that upper level, high ceiling in fantasy football, our running backs have to be involved in the passing game. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be that guy in his second year on this Chiefs offense. So instead of just throwing out top 10 upside over and over again, I just want to put some quick numbers and some quick averages on this so you can see just how well within reach this would be for somebody like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Over the past 3 seasons, the running backs have finished as top 10 running backs in half PPR scoring from weeks 1 to 16, have averaged 230 carries and 70 targets. The targets actually might be skewed slightly because if you go back and look at 2018, there were just some crazy running back target numbers that year. But to have like a benchmark, so to speak, there were only 8 running backs out of the 30 over the last 3 years that didn't have at least 50 targets. Clyde already hit that last year. If we take what Clyde Edwards did last year with 181 carries, take that out over a 16-game pace, he would have been right around that 220, 230 range. And like I said, I think we see that go up this year. I think we see his involvement tick up. Second full year in the offense, finally a regular offseason for him to get acclimated to this offense. And if we think about how Andy Reid was using all the running backs last year, but especially Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there was just nothing special about it. That's typically not something we see from an Andy Reid-led offense. So I'm fully expecting Clyde to get the workhorse treatment here, to be fully implemented into this offense and absolutely take off in 2021. So just to wrap this up, to talk about a negative that is brought up against Clyde Edwards-Helaire outside of just trying to use his results from last year against him, the main one you hear is about his red zone involvement, and he's not going to be the goal line back, and he was awful last year, and blah, 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 blah. Is he going to get every carry from the 20 and in? No. He might not even ever be efficient whenever he is getting those goal line carries. He only had 1 touchdown on 9 carries inside the 5 last year. Obviously, that's not good, but now with this offensive line, that could really help Clyde Edwards-Helaire once they get closer to there. And again, on one of the best offenses, they're going to have a ton of scoring chances. Last year, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 28 red zone touches, and 15 of those came inside the 10. Now, if we look at who the Chiefs have on their roster currently, it would make sense that Darrell Williams would be the goal line guy, right? 220 pounds. He's obviously the biggest guy they have. Darwin Thompson isn't that guy. Brought in Jerick McKinnon. He's only 205 pounds. So it must be Darrell Williams, right? Last year, Darrell Williams had a whopping 4 red zone carries, none inside the 10. Obviously, that means none inside the 5 either. Lev Bell obviously played a bigger role. He had 11 inside the 20, none from inside the 10. Mentioned bringing in Jerick McKinnon. Do you really think they brought in 29-year-old, 205-pound Jerick McKinnon to be a goal line back? No, he's not going to be the goal line back either. So again, is Clyde going to be the only guy to touch the ball inside the red zone and near the goal line? No, but going off of how they used him last year, he is absolutely going to have the most touches. And again, explosive offense, better offensive line. Like that, those are 2 super important things when it comes to the running back position. So for me, it's wheels up for Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 2021, and it is going to be a mistake if you let last year's results dictate how you're thinking about and how you're drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 2021. That's all I got for you guys. Really appreciate you joining me. Drop a comment. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Let me know if I convinced you or if you were thinking about fading Clyde Edwards-Helaire before watching this. Gonna have a ton more content coming out for you guys. And until the next time, I'll talk to you all soon.